Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Today we have a special report on Epoch TV. In it, we look at whether it's safe for Americans to invest in Chinese stocks. Be sure to check it out on Epoch TV. China in Focus is partnering with the platform. That's where you can watch our exclusive content every Friday night. To subscribe, click epochtv.com/China in Focus. Are Chinese stocks safe for U.S. investors? Just this month, one Chinese company sent many of them on a roller coaster ride. China's version of Uber, called DiDi, came in the U.S. to sell its stock shares.
It's expected to be the biggest stock market debut of the year.
But in just 48 hours, Beijing dropped its hammer on the company.
And Chinese ride-hailing app DiDi shares fell 6% today after the Chinese regime said it launched an investigation into it.
At one of its lowest points, DiDi shares plunged over 30%. But why is Beijing going after its biggest rideshare giant? What other companies are on the regime's radar? In this episode, we dive into Beijing's tug of war with its tech giants. Now we turn to today's daily news. More updates on that deadly flood in central China. River embankments have burst due to heavy rainfall. Water from the rivers is causing severe flooding in cities and villages nearby. Some places are completely submerged. And DiDi's Don Ma has more.
Floods continue to plague parts of Henan province in central China. On Friday, a section of a river embankment burst close to a village in the northern part of the province. This caused severe flooding in the surrounding villages and cities. Online videos show people attempting to mend the dike with large vehicles, but to little avail. Villages close by are now completely submerged. A resident in a village nearby says the situation is critical.
It's dangerous. It's all submerged. The floodwater is coming from upstream. The volume is large. It's critical. Large areas of Henan is flooded. The situation in places close to us is very serious.
The burst river embankment comes hot on the heels of another break on Thursday. On the same river downstream, a section of a dike collapsed near Xinjiang city. Due to continued rainfall, floodwater levels are still rising. Residents there attempted the same method to mend the opening. They threw 8 vehicles into the river, but to little avail. The flooding continues. Locals there are desperately calling for outside help.
The situation is even worse north of here. River water levels are very high. We don't have electricity here.
The situation there is part of the larger-scale floods happening in Henan province. Heavy rainfall hit the province starting Tuesday. Floodwaters level reached many feet, with the province capital city Zhengzhou being one of the worst hit. Don Ma, NTD News.
Chinese soldiers and armed police are deployed after the floodwater had receded. But what exactly are they doing there?
Chinese troops and armed police are in Zhengzhou City in central China's Henan province, supposedly for rescue work. But things turned violent between them and local residents. Some residents were taking pictures of a flooded tunnel, and the police tried to stop them. Cars there have been submerged for days, and bodies were seen carried out on Thursday. The casualties in the underground tunnel are believed to be heavy. A Chinese netizen comments, "How come they were not deployed to rescue people when the flood hit?" Chinese state-run media said that over 150 armed police officers have been deployed as part of the rescue team to the city of over 10 million. A large group of military trucks were also seen in the city after the flood had receded. A video shows the banners hanging on the truck saying, "The military and the people are like fish in water. We're one intimate family." Because the troops went in after the water had receded, one netizen questions whether they were merely there to collect the bodies. Military trucks are lining up next to the tunnel, but people are not allowed to go close to them. Local authorities also hang a huge banner close to the entrance of the tunnel saying, "Everything you say or do represents the image of Zhengzhou. Please do not gather here." The police are also seen lining up alongside the highway next to the entrance of the tunnel, watching the passing vehicles. They're there to stop onlookers. Due to the strict control measures, some question if authorities are covering up the actual death toll.
The rising floodwater apparently drowned at least 6 people in an underground parking lot in a residential area. A Twitter user posted screenshots of a Chinese chat group. In it, local residents were talking about the tragedy in the underground parking lot. The messages say 6 victims have been taken out and the number of deaths is still rising. They go on to say that back on Tuesday, the building management asked residents to move their cars out of the parking lot because there will be a flood. While the residents were there, a wall suddenly collapsed and water poured in very quickly. The messages add that some residents helped others escape by smashing the windows, but there were still some who didn't make it. Some users also posted pictures on the Chinese chat group. They show the underground parking lot one night after the flood. Residents also say that the building management told them not to discuss what had happened. The flood in central China is forcing tens of thousands of people to evacuate on Thursday. How are the residents there coping with the disaster? Emma McCarthy reports.
From the air, the devastation in Zhangzhou is seen at its worst. Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated from the industrial hub in China's central Henan province. And dams and reservoirs have swelled to warning levels as rainfall levels shattered records. Yang Yanling is the mother of 2 daughters. Clutching her little girl's hand, she says she's been trapped in her home for 3 days.
Because we are scared and worried there will be no food or drinks anymore, as we had no contact with the outside world. The family and relatives cannot contact us. They must be very worried. And we are also very anxious. We are also worried and afraid that there will be more serious floods. Both the first and second floors of the basement were flooded with water, so we are worried about the safety of our lives.
Bulldozers were used to pull people to safety, with some desperately clinging to the machines for a chance to escape. More rain is forecast across Henan for the next 3 days.
And on Thursday, China rejected a plan from the WHO to carry out a second phase of investigations into the origins of the CCP virus. The White House press secretary called Beijing's position, quote, irresponsible and frankly dangerous.
It's not just the United States calling for this. As a part of our renewed engagement and our efforts to build a coalition of support around the world with allies and partners, we're joined by the international community on this. Partners and multilateral organizations who are also calling for and pressuring China to be engaged in the second phase of this discussion.
Psaki reiterated the importance of a transparent and independent analysis after China failed to provide necessary data and access to the WHO's Phase 1 investigations. Earlier on Thursday, China's Vice Minister of the National Health Commission stated that he was taken aback by the hypothesis in the Phase 2 plan that the virus may have leaked from a Chinese lab. He urged the WHO to turn its origin tracing efforts to other countries instead. The Chinese regime slammed the U.S. on Friday for, as they called, politicizing an issue that should be left to scientists. They accused critics of seeking to blame Beijing for the pandemic. And that's all for today's China in Focus. Thanks for tuning in, and please make sure to check out our next special report next Friday. We will look at how the Chinese regime has been, for years, hiring criminal hackers to launch cyber attacks against the U.S. and its allies, all to achieve the strategic goals of the Chinese Communist Party. For years, cyber attacks have been a huge headache for the U.S. and its allies. Now, for the first time, they are formally calling out one of the biggest sources in charge behind the scenes.
New this morning, the U.S. is joining with allies around the world to call out the Chinese government for a series of cyber intrusions.
This prosecution is unique. This case is about a cyber hacking and economic espionage campaign led by the government of China.
In a special report, we look at just who are these Chinese hackers, how the regime uses the attacks to achieve their strategic goals.
Unsurprisingly, the intrusions targeted industries outlined in the Made in China 2025 plan.
How Beijing is building a massive database full of details about average Americans.
We're talking about people's health histories, their criminal histories.
And what tools the U.S. has to stop it. Be sure to check out our report on Epoch TV. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.